sometimes it takes for you to have to show somebody, right? But I was saying this to Shell. I said the thing about it though is that it's one thing for someone to be interested in what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's another thing for them to be interested in you. I mean, that's just a pro-you person. Like that,
Right.
that's your advocate. It's another thing for someone to listen to what you are doing, understand what you want to do, and want to have buy-in.
Right.
Like that's different. Your business in itself could have arbitrary support, and that'd be great, but it requires consumer buy-in,
Yeah.
which is actually an investment in yourself.
Yeah.
But it requires consumer buy-in in order for you to even have a platform. So you need, I hate saying it like this, but you need them more than you need outside support.
Right.
Right. Now, what you would probably need outside support for is for some level of guidance in terms of marketing and advertising and actually your perspective.
Right.
The you can still do this, because as an entrepreneur, we all have doubts.
Every day.
It's a marathon.
Yeah.
It's a marathon.
Like, you'll be like, is this even worth it? Because there's a lot of energy I'm putting into. And if you don't have enough people to say, you got it, you boom, you do, you know?
Yeah.
Like somebody, I think it was one of my first potential clients, and they were like, well, the price is this, and I can't do this. And I was like, this is me. Like, this is my baby, you know?
Yeah.
But I had to talk to entrepreneur friends
Hey guys,
to
what's
boost
up?
me and be like, you got this, Whitney. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
Remember your worth.
It costs what it costs.
Yeah.
It costs what it costs. There's just one thing about this. There's a couple of actually really good points, because I look at this for motivation, but so we all seek our motivation in different areas, right?
Yeah.
I have this internal working thing for me where I always ask myself, am I living up to expectations? Here's the deal though. Those are my expectations of me.
Exactly.
There's nobody else.
Exactly.
Honestly, anybody else that I was looking for in terms of their expectations is either completely satisfied with what I have become, or they are dead.
Right.
So I can't please them now.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm proud of me. I like me. I'm glad you do too.
I have a question for you. Do
Okay.
you think that you are your worst, like, expectation person? Like,
No, because I don't let myself down very often. So no, I'm not my worst critic.
yeah.
I'm hard on myself.
Yeah.
But I'm hard on myself because I expect that is going to improve.
Right.
Or we can just digest that as a lesson, and we can just know that that's just not going to happen again. But even then, still, that's an improvement.
Right.
We got burned. We got bit. We just don't get bit by the same snake twice.
Right.
That's all. So like, if you keep doing that, then I believe, just wholeheartedly, I believe you haven't answered your question, which is kind of to the point of what we were talking, I think maybe last week, is that I believe in order for you to be complete in this particular game of life, you have to have answered your question. I know what I answered. That question isn't for everybody else. You take that journey through the Himalayas, you go find the Dalai Lama, and you say, man, I've been meaning to ask you what the meaning of life is. He might ask you, what do you think?
Right.
Like, it's not necessarily what he defines as what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Because that's the Dalai Lama's expectations of humanity. We're about to get tinfoil hat right now. So like, that's just not how this works.
Yeah.
My father, you love your dad, love mine too. But what he told me was very, very special to me at about 18 years old. And I didn't realize that until I was maybe in my 20s, that I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Right.
When I was asking him for guidance, up until the point I was 18, he would tell me.
Right.
When I turned 18, he's like, what do you think? That's where it became his definition of what a man should become or should be becoming.
Yeah.
Starts then. He said, I've given you enough stuff. What do you think now? So at that point, and I was mad. And I was like, I'm asking you, because I'm used to asking him.
Right.
It's like, I'm asking you.
Right.
And he got stern with me, and he told me, if I told you now, you would do what I want you to do.
Right.
What are you going to do?
It's funny you say something like that, because I feel that that's good that your dad transitioned that at 18. But what happens when you have the parents that never transitioned to say, what do you think? And they still have it to where they want to state, well, this is what I think.
Sure. I only think /feel, because, thinking and feeling are the same thing. But I think /feel that My father answered his question, right?
Yeah.
He walked in, I walked into the door of his life with him already having established sets of values. My mother too. I'm not discrediting her. I'm just talking about him in this particular thing.
Right.
I developed my own sets of values based on what he felt the mark would be. That's almost ubiquitous though, because when you look at it in terms of what he would have thought you needed to, check these boxes, what you had to do in order to get those boxes checked is kind of the defining journey.
Yeah.
I got it. I understood it.
Yeah.
So as I sat in this one market, I had an epiphany, honestly. And I sat in this one little marketplace and I said, I get it. I could probably tell you that story today. I can definitely tell you it later though.
Right.
But it was a moment. To answer your question though, I just don't feel as though it's as big of a problem with the parent still having expectations on the child until it becomes a toxic restraint or constraint. But see, now you got to check yourself.
Yep.
Or there's someone that needs to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I think you're still being overbearing and they're 40.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you should probably chill out.
Yeah.
But the person who is receiving that constriction should also be able to vocalize. We are talking about, at this point, the what ifs. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of repression. There's a lot of cast down expectations, especially in our culture, about who you do and do not talk to.
That's what I help.
And that's why you're here now.
Because I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's well, we got a lot of fog to clear out as a people.
Yeah.
We do. Because this affects your personal life. This affects your dating life. This, it's a lot. This affects your social integration when you're starting to deal with other people outside of your culture.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like you went through that where you've been exposed early, but you were still a person of color, which means that the inherent understanding of what it's like to be black in America is there.
Yeah.
You take that out of spec. I did it early. My father was very cultured. My mother was very cultured, very cultured.
Right.
So their thoughts of what is cool and not, I learned. But when they took me out of my zoned school and put me integrated into this other predominantly white school district,
that was
or school itself, mind blowing.
Yeah.
But you're an impressionable kid. So when I come back to my zoned area, I'm the oddball.
Yes.
This does something to your psyche.
It does.
It
really does.
You weren't good enough over there.
Yes.
And you grew to be.
Right.
And you're not good enough over here.
Yes.
Because you're too different than what everyone else is.
Right. I tell people all the time, this is why I went all the way up to a doctorate's degree. Because I felt like, okay, well, I'll be able to fit in with the bachelor's here. But then I was like, but I'm not qualified.
Shameless plug, by the way.
Hey,
thanks.
But I'm not qualified.
Yeah.
So then I had to go all the way to a doctoral degree.
So
to feel qualified.
So let's back up, because I wanted to ask you this, and I wanted to ask you this here.
What?
Let's talk about your educational journey.
Oh, okay.
Because you have a doctorate.
Yes.
And I can't even say it with a straight face because it makes me beam when I think about it. I don't sit in front of many people that do. You know what I mean? Like
you're like, what?
It's really cool. I got to be honest with you. It really is. You know what I mean?
Thank
like
you.
You can tell someone, like, I'm a fireman, I'll save everyone's life. And I think that's awesome. And I would ask you as engaging of a question because I've never done it.
Right.
If I saved a life, maybe I'll never talk about it, but it's just like, okay. But I also never did that.
Yeah. And
the endurance is what we're talking about right now.
I told you it was that shift thing.
It's the gear.
Yeah.
But let's just back it all the way down. Did you go to school in, like, as far as your formative years? Were you in Texas or were you in Houston?
Actually, all my school, well, no, my doctor's not but yeah, in Houston.
Okay.
So I went to, do you want to know all those places?
I mean, just throw them out there.
Okay, well.
Shout out.
I guess. So I went to Prairie View, and I got a bachelor's in communications and marketing.
Okay.
And then I went to Texas Women's University and got my master's in business administration. Because if I do anything, I have to really master it and knowing it, like whatever I do. And then currently doctorate. So they call me a doctorate candidate because I finished all my core classes and I'm in my dissertation.
Okay.
But I really had this vision for this company. So I was like, can I pause on my dissertation and do this? And then I'm going to finish it.
Okay.
That's what I told the husband.
Sure.
So I have a doctorate in education, teaching and learning with the emphasis in adult learning. Why did I do that?
Okay. That was next. Go ahead.
Because I wanted to, I think so many people learn how to teach a certain class or whatever, but they don't know how to learn effectively to the student. And it leads into my dissertation, which my dissertation is on how I believe that professors or instructors should teach to adult learners' preferable learning style.
Okay.
I think we all as individuals learn differently.
Yeah.
So, you might be an auditory and a kinesthetic learner. You might be a visual learner. You might be, it's all these different types. And I feel like a lot of people teach more towards like lecture-wise, whereas in my public speaking class, like we have fun.
Sure.
Because I teach to all different type of learning styles. So I have a mix of different degrees, but they all collide together in what I like to do now.
And that's kind of the point that I wanted to ask you about that for, so that I could also tell you that it is extremely rare that, and I've met a lot of people, but it's extremely rare that I get to meet people of color that are educated in the same career field that they're in.
Yeah.
Granted, you even carved it out for yourself.
I did.
So we'll just integrate a round of applause, but congratulations.
Yay! Thank you.
It, as you know, it's not easy.
Yes.
Education is the backbone of becoming powerful to me.
Oh my gosh. My favorite quote by Albert Einstein is, if you're not learning, you're dying. And my dad said, you took it literal.
Sure. Also, just because we're very similar and you don't know it, I have an acrylic and epoxy painting of Albert Einstein in my office.
I love
And it's like that big. It's big.
Oh my gosh.
It's
so cool.
He's great.
He is.
He's great.
I love what he's left-handed. And I feel like left-handed people are geniuses.
I'm ambidextrous, so I don't count. I'm an outlier.
So you're just that person.
I'm an in-betweener. I mean, no, I broke my hand and had to learn left. And then also I was an art kid, and I learned when I was going through
I am too.
HFAC, Houston Fine Arts College. When I was going through that, they made me draw with my left hand, and I never did it before. So,
Wow.
I learned to paint, I learned to draw with my left. And when I did that, I was like, why am I doing this? It's like, I'm so much better at this with my right.
Yeah.
But I am ambi, like by birth, just because I do a whole lot of things switch-footed,
Right.
But it made me pay more attention to detail.
That's
So
really good.
their purpose of that was that. And I said, well, I mean, that's cool. I get it. And it wasn't hard for me. Now, other people, flopped at it because they're probably more dominant,
Right.
right-handed. I'm just not. So it was cool.
That leads to like how I say like your imperfections make you perfectly who you are.
Sure.
Like some would say, oh, that's off because you're not both like right-handed and this and da. But it's like, but that's what makes me uniquely me.
That's what makes me divine.
Yeah. Like I'm an original, not a copycat.
Yeah. Don't be upset that you can't do it. Just appreciate someone that can. Just say, hey, that's pretty cool. And then move on with your life.
Come
Like
on.
it's not that hard.
It goes back to the minding your business, you see.
And it also goes back to expectations, though, because you do remember there was a time. I mean, we don't have to tell your age, but I do understand we are close, but not. But at the same time, you do remember a time that left-handed people was considered devilish.
Oh yeah.
In our culture.
Yes.
So they made you use your right.
I'm trying to change the trajectory on it. I'm not left-handed, but every left-handed person I've met, they've been like pretty amazing people.
Yeah.
They think differently.
It's a different thing. It's a different gear of creativity.
It is.
I'm only half of it. I
So you got a little half of it.
Yeah,
I like to be around those people in the room.
Yeah, I got a membership to the clubhouse. I don't have a lifelong membership. I still have to pay dues. You know what I'm saying?
I'm the one sitting outside that's like, hey, can I please come in?
Now they email me an invoice like, that $99 is due this year. It's like, I'm still paying
You don't
for
get
it.
a half off discount?
No, because they were born into it. I'm just like, all right, guys, come on.
That's funny.
But the expectations of others.
Right.
That's difficult. It's difficult because we have to grow out of it Thankfully, I was around an amazing human being that kicked me out of it, right? Because but even during his time of transition, when he became ill and needed more help, then I'm still telling him, I changed my mind though, because he was a solid wolf.
Really?
But he would let me know, hey, I live for me. Like, I don't live for you. So you don't live for me. So you gotta do what you need to do.
Yeah.
But don't come over here telling me what I need to do.
Hey.
All right, cool. Fair enough. Here's the deal. There's a range of that. We can negotiate on that, because you are asking me to care for you. So you can keep up some of these things.
Right.
But we just need you to take your meds, you know what I mean, on time. Like,
You
that's
have
all.
to.
So we made that deal. I actually just told my mother that last night. She was because it's painful.
Right.
And so the journey that I went through with him, you could tell somebody that and they just glaze over, because, as you know, like, some things are too difficult for other people
Yeah, I get it.
to digest.
100%.
Not going to dive into that. Back to my point of what we're saying.
That would be a whole other conversation. I'll tell you about some stuff that happened when I went through cancer.
You know what I mean? But I'm tribal.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is this. See, this is kind of where we're changing the show segments, and I told you, it's like, this is kind of like the free talking area, because I feel like we're getting to know each other at that level. I'm tribal in the sense of understanding what the expectations of the community were. That's the outside community. That's the in-home community. That's my family. That's the friends I choose to be around. Right. There's a tribal expectation here. When you get me in that, now that I've answered my question, when you get me in that, there's expectations that you can have of me.
Yeah.
I unfortunately do not put those expectations on others.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that you go get. If you're built that way, you got to go get somebody. I'm the one that they would go get.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone to go get. So
How was that for you?
It worked out pretty well.
Okay. See, some people become conquerors of it, and some people go through a whole mental breakdown, because that's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. However, again, relating to you in the previous conversations about what you also survived outside of cancer, if I didn't conquer it, we wouldn't be talking.
You and me both.
So there is no option here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're either clocking out or we're staying clocked in.
Well, guess what? Isn't it amazing that we both fought it through, because now we're helping people's lives?
Yes. This whole thing, you, your purpose, me, why I'm here right now, is to inspire.
100%.
It's to inspire. I could have done anything. I could be talking about gossip right now. I could only just be having segments about shoes, and that would be okay.
Right.
But it would not help my soul.
Come on.
So I could be doing all the cutesy stuff.
Yeah.
I never wanted that, actually. I had a stint of professional photographer, business person, entrepreneur, made publications, been published, internationally exhibited around the world. Right. Doesn't change my tax bracket. And I actually was more happy with being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I would show up to shows and not even stand next to my work. Yeah. Because it was like, you wouldn't believe it was me anyway, so I'm just going to fall back.
It leads me to ask you a question, but I know this is your show.
No, ask away.
But it's like, people ask, like, which one would you want to be, rich or famous?
Sure.
Now, I have my answer. Sure. But I really want to know, like, what would be your answer?
My answer is powerful, but okay. So if I believe ultimately, because I don't want people to take that out of context.
Yeah.
Power doesn't mean this oligarchical, person that controls everything.
Yeah.
It does mean that what you do stands for something, and what you don't do, people understand that you ain't for it.
Right.
Yes is yes, no is no. That's power to me.
Yeah.
To me. Now somebody else would be like, I just want to kick people's butts who teased me in high school. And maybe that's power to you. And that's okay.
Right.
There's a place for you. There's a place for that.
Exactly.
Right? We're rich or famous, I'll take rich. I don't need the fame.
Me too.
Nobody needs that.
You know the sad part, I answer the same way, but the sad part is sometimes when you're trying to make, like you said, powerful or make an impact, it will make you that.
Sure.
So it's like my game, like that's not my end game to be this famous type person or whatever. But if get to that one or having impact in somebody's life, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. You know what I used to I don't dream of this, but I appreciate this so much, that when you have a person that's receiving an award and they stand there and they receive their award and they're the well-known person, they're popular, they're famous, they're everything, right? They are perceived to be rich, who knows? But at least they're getting the accolades up front. The people that they thank at the end of that, like when an actress says, "I just want to thank my producers and directors." No, they're powerful. Let's not get it confused. This actress is great and you love her, but she would not be in front of you if it wasn't for those people.
Yes.
Having said that, I'd prefer them. I'd prefer to be them.
I love that.
You know what I mean? When you
don't
get
have
that,
to be all out there.
you don't have to be all out there, but some people do.
No,
I don't.
All that.
I'm not a stage performer. I love seeing it. I believe that level of art demonstration is good. It's fantastic. I know I can't do it, but I know I can produce it.
But you know what's so funny? I used to be, when I didn't know me and my self-worth of who I was, I wanted to be that person that was like, oh, look at me. Da, da, da.
Validation quest.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And now that I really know who I am and whose I am, mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't need none of y'all in my face. Just send me my check.
Sure. And that's why I kept telling you, there's a place for that.
Yeah.
There's thespians, singers. I'm talking about performers, dancers. Like, there is a place for that. I don't get into the psychology of what took you here. I actually do understand it to a degree. Yeah. But I don't get into the psychology of what took you here. I appreciate you for being an artist, because artists are dealing with a lot. Right. So when they're trying to use this as an outlet and get that thing out of their system, that's fantastic. Problem is when it goes down the wrong pathway and that now becomes your definition, and inadvertently you're known.
It's not fun anymore.
It's not fun anymore. See, now it's your job.
Exactly. Like I tell my students, because, I'm an adjunct professor, and I tell my students, I'm like, I do this for fun. Mm-hmm. The difference between me and somebody else teaching this class, I'm doing this because this is my passion. This is my God-given purpose. Mm-hmm. Like I get surprised that I get a check from this because I love doing this. Mm-hmm. When you see somebody working in their passion and what they like, what they produce is so much different.
Yeah.
And I tell my boss from that job, I'm like, if this starts becoming a job, I'm done.
Right. If it feels like I have to be here, if it feels like I have to make myself feel passionate about this, I should probably stop.
I took a major pay cut from corporate America just to have sense of happiness and working in passion.
We're starting to see this a lot more now. You know what I mean? Yeah. I believe that our environment right now has made people exceed their bandwidth of composure.
Come on.
And so, you've challenged yourself because you have to live at home with your spouse. Maybe that's not what you signed up for, because now you're learning something about them 24/7 in a shared space. I used to like work separate from home.
Yes.
Because if work is stressing me out, I didn't want home stressing me out.
Right.
Well, you're literally in a pod at home, having to deal with everything at the same time. That's an overload. Yes. So like I respect the mental health of that, but companies were forced to respect it because in strength, there is power.
Right.
Or in numbers, there is power.
Right.
Right. So if 5 people say, hey, we have a problem, but you employ 600, no, y'all have a problem. Yeah. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
But if hundreds of them, if 50% of your staff is voicing a concern, you have to listen.
Yep.
Otherwise your doors are going to close.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it became a thing now where the topic has become addressed by corporate America in general, because they understand that if you lose all these people,
it's done.
It's over.
Yes.
It's over. Now we're not going to talk about who you worked for, but can you tell me in what department, like what capacity was your job role in corporate America? Because the things you said about the standards that they were giving you is a little weird to me. It made me feel like you had to be in front of people, but
well, I was a high executive. I'm trying to just
dance around it.
Yeah, I'm gonna dance around it because I'm still.
Well, was your title something that it was only distinct to you?
No,
it
was other people. I was at like a regional level.
Okay, regional exec.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to be in front of people.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
A lot. Okay.
Yes, I did have to be in front of a lot of people.
Cool.
I did like commercials for this company.
I was starting to feel as though there was a presentation standard that they had?
Yes.
Okay.
And there wasn't many at that time when I was in this job. It wasn't many black or brown people. So
Cool.
I think they were at that time, and trust and believe the company has definitely diversified.
I feel like they probably had to.
Yeah. But at that time, it was very something new.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
so it was very hard. But after going through like therapy and really getting the root of some of my trauma and stuff, I just realized it goes back to like people having that expectation of people and not knowing. There's so many people that are ignorant to so much. And I think that after like, sadly enough, the Black Lives Matters situation has happened, it has really opened people's eyes that have not seen or understand certain things, like certain things that I would, I would have a lot of my other race friends say, hey, what is something that you deal with as far as considered like racism?
Sure.
Well, if I'm walking out of, say if I go to Walmart or whatever, if I'm walking out of Walmart, I have to have my receipt in my hand. Well, why do you have to have your receipt in your hand? Because they're going to ask me, did I pay for it?
Sure. Trayvon Martin gets killed. I intentionally bought hoodies that were very uniform in a sense because I was that angry. Like, I dare you for that. See, the difference between the two, in my opinion, at the time, I'm just talking about how angry I was.
Oh, I
said,
get
no,
it.
the difference between the
It
two
was
is that
hard.
Trayvon Martin kicked that man's ass before he got killed. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying?
He fought.
To say the difference is that he wouldn't have been able to draw. Like, it angered you so much. You know what I
My
mean?
anger came whenever the situation happened with Sandra Bland.
Me
Because I
too.
went to school with her.
Oh, my God.
I knew her personally.
Yeah.
I knew her personally. And so for me, it was just like, okay.
Yeah.
And I just feel like this is like, yeah, we're made to be warriors, but dang, like how much can we keep taking?
Yeah, that became the origins of BLM are out of necessity, in my opinion. The direction to which they were handled as a you call it a business or as a structure.
Yeah.
Okay, we can have conversations and cast our thoughts and processes about how they could have done better and or whatever internally.
Right.
Gotcha. I also think that at a level that they were moving at, the government has a lot to do with their public perception in a bad way. Because you remember, the Black Panthers were fantastic. The government is the one that gave them a bad name.
Oh,
the Nation
yeah.
of Islam is fantastic. The government is the one that tried to blackball and exile and make the individuals look like enemies.
Right.
Doesn't matter what religion you choose. I'm talking about the organization of it
Agreed.
all and the purpose of the organization.
Agreed.
They all started off with good intentions. That's where I get tinfoil hat, because if I'm looking at this from the news report that does promote one president candidate over the next,
Right.
well, why would I believe you
Exactly.
in terms of the way
This
you're
is why
making
I
this
can't
group
watch
be?
the news, 'cause I'm like, you're projecting what you want me
Sure.
to believe.
Sure. That was wildfire. It came out, BLM came out, we're protesting, everybody's moving in one direction, that's great. Internationally, it became a thing. I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine at the time. I said, Aboriginal Australians are also using this.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I think that what they're going through is similar, but it is not the same because they have it's more of a BLM / reservation, like Native Lives Matter
Right.
in their sense. And I'm not saying that's a thing. So
Yeah.
please don't make it seem like I just made that up. I'm not trying to brand
Anything else.
first settlers, none of
right,
that.
right.
I just understand that the construct of what happens with an Aboriginal in Australia is kind of what is similar to being on the reservation here.
Right.
Plus you're a person of color
Yeah.
is a little different. But it's unique in terms of how that spread. Social media helped it. The infrastructure probably could have been designed a little bit better. Could have been stronger.
I don't know about you. One thing that I just loved back in the day, and there's a really cool fact. My husband's related to Malcolm X. Yes. I think
Okay.
It's his grandpa's first cousin.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd be like, babe, do this.
Go outside. Look outside the window with AK-47 again. You don't have to say what that does for you. I know what it would do for me if I saw it, but I get it. Go ahead.
But I just loved, I don't know about you, but I just loved the representation of Black men being able to wear suits. They were structured, they were put together. I'm like, that was years back, right? So why couldn't we have came together?
Sure.
Been professional. Like, we don't have to come ignorant. We can come in a professional manner and still get what we need to get done.
Sure.
And put the awareness out there.
Now, in my opinion, and I do serve as a hiring manager as well.
Awesome.
And I actually find that to be purposeful. You know what I mean? Like, they asked me to do it. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And so, when I got the request, it was like, hey, I'm going to list you as a hiring manager now. I said, you're going to list me as that now so I can fill in the blank of, did you have one? Or are you promoting me or integrating my job role into a hiring managing role?
It's the label that people put on you.
Yeah.
Do I make my own?
I'm good with the labels as long as the check comes with it.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
say, I don't care. Just don't.
I care. I care because, and this is the other side of it, is that if you ask me to do a job, I'm going to do it
right
at a capacity that would make you say, I'm happy we asked them to do that.
Right.
That's how I work.
That's good.
Now, on the flip of that, if that isn't for me, I will vocalize that's not going to be for me.
Yeah.
So before I do anything, and this has been, I mean, to the detriment of a relationship, but I think it's necessary because I don't move unless I know. If it doesn't make sense, I can't play with it.
But that goes into you knowing who you are.
Correct. I have a value system of myself.
Exactly.
I also know my bandwidth. So if you're asking me to do that also, maybe I can't.
Right.
If that role isn't suited for me, knowing
Right.
what I want to do with my life,
Right.
then I will tell you no.
Yep.
I have no problem telling you no.
That's so good.
But at the same time, I don't mind this. And then I thought for a nanosecond, oh, we're going to hire people of color, and I get to be on the forefront of having the vetting, gauging, and also assisting process of getting new blood and,
That's
correct.
good.
And so it brings me to this. There's a gigantic shift between what happened when I was young and getting hired for jobs in corporate America in terms of presentation, perception, and what there is right now.
Right.
And I traveled the world. I lived in three different continents.
Right.
So the standard of uniformity over here as opposed to America, way different. Way different.
I remember we talked about this.
But I guess in short, I went up to a little northern state, and they're hiring millennials. I'm not a millennial. I may look like a baby, but they're hiring millennials. And when I'm looking at them, I'm like, wow, the hair, the tattoos, I'm talking about to the throat. I'm like, tattoos. We're in a corporate environment. I'm looking at what used to be the fact that you couldn't even have a forearm tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
Visible.
Yeah.
Especially not for us.
It's funny that you say that because, like, I do have tattoos. And it's sometimes it's like, oh, do I want to, if I'm going this place, I want to make sure I cover more.
Sure.
Or, and it's sad, but we have been taught and brained, like, it doesn't look professional if you don't have your hair this way.
Sure.
Or like for natural women like myself.
It's rough.
Yeah, like I used to always wear my hair straight. Mm-hmm. And I have beautiful curls.
Yes,
I
you do.
love my curls. But it didn't look professional.
Sure. The dynamic's changing.
It is.
Because we're getting this is not diluting. I don't think diluting is the right word, but there's an influx of people that have creative self-expression that are incredibly intelligent. They call us creatives.
Yes.
They're articulate. They're intelligent. They also have a demand. There's more people in this bracket of creatives, especially in the millennial generation, than there are of these dinosaurs who can pull the trigger on your employment or not.
Agreed.
You're going to need them because they're of the hiring age now.
Right.
So you're just going to have to accept their visible presentation
Right.
as long as they can do the job.
Exactly.
Now, the problem comes, and if you're listening, the problem comes that you don't do the job, okay?
No.
So this is back to why I was asking you about your corporate standard, not your presentation standard. We understand that was messed up.
Yeah.
But the corporate standard, that's why I can still deal with corporate America.
Yes.
Because as a
it's
rigid...
the foundation of who I am.
But as a rigid-minded person, at least I guess, could you appreciate that if it costs what it costs, you also have to say the job is the job.
100%. Like now, looking in, I'm like, thank you.
Sure.
Because you created me to have a structure I mean, after that corporate job, I left, and then I was supposed to be just an assistant. It was at a mental health company, and I ended up in 2 weeks becoming the COO.
Sure.
And because of my structure and expectations of like, hey, this needs to be this way. So yes, it has molded the person that I am. And whenever I exuberate things, I expect excellence.
Sure.
So you might not meet me there, but I'm going to teach you how to get there because this is my expectation.
And you may not stay here, but at least you knew that there was a standard here.
Exactly.
It exists.
Yes.
That's what I get to do now. When I get individuals who are asking me, hey man, I really want to make it in this company. Like, what do I need to do? And it's only us that ask me that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because they can see who I am.
Right.
I'm a 1%er as it comes down to this company. I've done some things that no one else would have done.
Right.
Because the opportunity wasn't there. That's not me bragging. It
No.
didn't exist until it got presented, and I just so happened to be employed when it did.
Yep.
And I was prepared, and I was willing to do the thing.
I get it.
That made me a 1%er. But that's what happens if you. That's the statement that Brad Pitt made in Troy, and he says, okay, now if you're not willing to do that, that's the reason why no one's going to remember your name. Some people want to die with a headstone. Other people want to die with a monument.
Come on.
Who do you want to be?
I want to be that one with the monument.
And just so you're listening and don't take that out of context, that doesn't mean famous.
Right.
That, to me, means powerful.
Yeah.
That's all.
For me, my favorite word is legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I want to just make that impact. You know, makes me think of Lion King.
It does. See, people sleep on that. Lion King is an amazing story.
It is definitely an amazing story.
It's an amazing story.
I love Disney movies.
Black Panther was an amazing story.
Man. Yes.
And we needed to have it. But see, this is the joy of just understanding the journey.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very short thing about the Epiphany, right? Dad passes away. I knew that was going to put me in a dark spot because he was my first best friend, right? So in that being said, I left. Now, I did something that I don't think a lot of us had the opportunity to do, which is take a sabbatical, and B, go backpacking. That's a very non-black thing. So I grabbed a backpack, cut off my Wi-Fi, told Mom, probably going to be back. Use probably as the operative word. Probably going to be back because I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I do know that I need to purge. I couldn't stay here. I could not stay here. I knew it. Now, I'm a traveler anyway.
Right.
So that
Call it fight or flight mode. You were flight mode.
No. Actually, I'm not. Let me clarify that.
What?
I will stand and bang for almost anything. Actually, mostly for like the right and wrong reasons.
Right.
I'll stand and bang because my degree, when I told you, when you get me into the tribe, you get a different animal. Because right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm going to be there with you.
Right.
And we're going to talk about how screwed up this is in the car. But outwardly, I'm banging. That is me. You ask anybody after this, I'm like, he's thorough.
Wow.
Now, having said that, though, even Superman had to take off his cape.
Hey,
Right?
I agree.
So in the sense of, I'm not running away.
Yeah.
I needed to go recharge. I needed to reset, and I could not do it here. So for me, I had to take the mental break away from literally everything. And I understood why, hence the epiphany, because I took the break. I left. I went to go see my family for a couple of days and spent most of the time out on sabbatical by myself. Because when you're by yourself, my personal opinion is that you get to answer a couple of questions.
Yeah.
And so in that, I answered them. The epiphany that I had was that the same thing that I told you about my father's standards and understanding what he told me would, to be a man, you need to blah, 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 right? What I did up until when I realized it, I just made an account of everything that he said.
Right.
So my namesake is King Hassan II in Morocco.
Oh, wow.
So I went to Morocco. Went to Morocco. I sat down. I went to the water. I sat down at the nice little coffee shop. Had very strong coffee. It might have made me trip. That's probably how I had the epiphany. I was probably bugging out.
Right.
But I sat there and I closed my eyes and I just listened to everything.
Yeah.
Noise, my name. I heard my name so much because it's Arab.
Right.
So it was just, oh, Hassan, Kaifa Halek, Benjamin. It was there
Yeah.
the whole time. And he was there. So when I understood why he gave me this, I said, okay, well, that's great. Now I'm here in the same spot that spawned your inspiration. And then it clicked, everything that it took for you to get here is what you instilled in order for me to get here too. Broke down, cried, finished my coffee. And then after that, I said, well, now I can go back home. And that's why I said I'd probably be back. Because then I decided, I can go back home now.
Because you had to find that within yourself.
I figured it out.
That nobody else, and you couldn't have the fog, which is sometimes distractions of what's going on with you. It's like, I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
It was great. It was
good
great.
You were able to do that within yourself.
Yeah. I'm glad I had the ability to. I'm also glad I had the clarity of mind in order to know what I would need in order to give myself a little bit of therapy. I did go to grief counseling, but to understand that I could give myself that therapy. But the reason why I knew I could do that is because I had been through grief counseling and therapy before. So I already understood there were some other outlets. Those outlets helped me then. Would they help me now? Not sure. Could I do something else? I have the means to. Well, let's do that instead. And if that doesn't work, you can come back to the conventional.
So what would you tell people that never had the gear of going through that? Yeah, like how would you tell them, hey, this will help you?
I believe that once, just like you've done presentations before, you understand the first rule of public speaking from a presentation facilitation standpoint is that you must establish who you are.
Right.
Once you establish who you are, that qualifies, that gives you the credentials up front that the listener can then say, okay, cool. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, then now I can present to you what we're going to talk about.
Right.
So for a person who didn't think they could, we could talk about what I've gone through that may be similar to yours, and then that can instill a little sense of capability with you.
Yeah.
The options need to be there because clearly what I did was extreme and some would consider expensive. And if you don't have those means, it doesn't mean that you can't answer your question.
Right.
You have to figure out what the question is.
Yeah.
I'm a product of a standard as well as me having a inability to concern myself with the danger zones. My understanding of danger is a little bit different than everyone else's because of how I grew up.
Yeah.
And what I volunteered to do.
Yeah.
So I could go do this by myself. I could go play these sports, individual sports. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that's okay. Why I say it's okay is because of the challenges that I put in front of myself that I didn't back down from.
That's good.
That's not a man thing. That's a human thing.
Yes.
That's a human thing. You should just need to know that you can.
But I think that also the other thing, and a lot of people won't talk about it, but Black men have a lot that they have to carry.
Yes. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
A lot. And even if they're married or whatever, there's stuff that they just don't reveal.
Sure.
And it's just a heaviness that sometimes it takes something like you going on sabbatical to just say, whew, I can breathe. Because sometimes you can't even breathe in the environment because you have to withhold this certain standard of how you're supposed to walk, talk. You're having to do it out in the world and you're having to do it in home. So where's your safe place?
Where's your safe place? Who's your safe person? You know?
Yeah.
And we operate in life in general when we play, when we try to detach, when we get out of our normal role, then maybe you are in an area where you can try to, purge that out,
Yeah.
I used to work out a lot. I mean, I still do. But I mean, that used to be the getaway. It kind of still is, but it's just so little in the day that you do that. I mean, you're going to work out 1 hour. You're going to be not working out for 23 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I've integrated that into a lifestyle, and that's fine. And that helps me with my mental focus.
That's good. And everybody has their thing.
Everyone has their thing. Within the lifestyle, though, there are challenges, and that's my personal request of myself. So it's not just, I'm going to run a mile every day, and that's great for your health.
Right.
What was the last speed I ran, though? Okay, well, let's do it again, but faster. Well, what's the last thing that I picked up? Okay, well, I was benching this. Okay, well, let's try to go faster. This is not a meathead thing. This is a gradual challenge,
Yes.
right? To answer,
push yourself.
to know if you can.
Yeah.
You know, if you can. I got out of this. I had major surgery. Like, I got out of this thing.
Yeah.
I got my training partner. She says, can you still pick up that much weight? I was like, I don't know.
Let's try it.
Let's try it.
That, you know, I have that, I call it mindset, growth perspective, mind shift, whatever. But I had that same thing happen to me. Somebody told me when I was in high school, you'll never be smart enough to get a 4-year university. And I'm one of those people, like, don't tell me stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, let me see how this works.
Sure.
So what do? I get, you know, my bachelor's. Then I'm like, I wonder if I get a master's, like, could I really do it? And I think that's why I just challenged myself or whatever. Now, a lot of people don't think like how you and I think.
I understand.
But if we could, like, give them a little seed of that,
Sure.
it could definitely help
Sure.
them keep going.
Look, if you put positivity in their face,
Yeah.
they being the royal they, if you put positivity in their area where it can integrate into their feed, where
Yeah.
you can listen to, you know, a person that isn't talking about trash versus, you know, continuing our journey in the right direction, that's helpful. So this in a micro, you know, is helpful.
Yeah.
You know,
I tell people that's my superpower, planning those to where they can remember those certain things. Or I tell my students every day, like, just smile.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, it can have just like negative things can have a effect on people, like positive things as far as smiling or asking somebody, like, how are you doing? And actually, like, don't say, like, how are you doing? Just keep it walking. Like, how are you doing? And sit there
and ask
and
really,
ask and just
really
sit in
engage.
it. I've done that with so many people, and they're like, I just need a hug. And I'm like, okay.
2 things.
What?
1 question, 1 anecdote.
Okay.
I'm on a trip in Europe.
Sorry about that.
God, this sounds posh. I ain't trying to say it like this, but it happened. It was like, I was out in Europe one day.
I know, like, I love Belize, so I'm like,
I told Mitzi to get the car. Yeah, it didn't happen that way. Okay. I was just happened to be on vacation and I was in a relationship and I took her with me.
Okay.
Point though, we get in and we're in London, right? And we're on the river. And so when I don't even know if she's listening and or remember this, but this is really cool to me based on what you said, is that I get to a spot because we're in Texas and we're rather friendly, you know?
Yeah.
So I get to a spot where the young lady is like, hello, welcome to the thing, right? They just have to greet people anyway.
Yeah,
They're just a
yeah.
greeter. It's like, hello, welcome to the Tower of London. How are you? I'm good. How are you doing? And she stopped. Like, she had to readjust herself. I swear to you this happened. And she says,
Because
no one's ever asked me that.
her.
She almost cried. I said, it's gonna be okay. Now I
And you
do need
made
to
her
get my
feel-
ticket though, but it's gonna be
'Cause
okay.
you know what? You made her feel seen.
Not just literally. Can you imagine
Wow.
a job? See what that does to you? Look at that. You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine a situation where you are literally for 8 hours a day? I'm guessing for 8 hours a day. Hello, welcome. Hello, welcome, and
nobody
everyone's
says
just
hi to you.
gone.
And then it's that one.
Right. You know what? Secondary, anecdote point 5. Why I left on vacations and why I choose to travel abroad for vacations is because when I lived abroad, I dealt with almost weekly me reminding myself that I don't deserve any of this. So now that I've done it and I got a taste for it, it's like in your mouth now. It's like, I'd like to do this again.
That's what I want to do for 2022.
Travel more?
Travel more abroad. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Belize is amazing as well. But living abroad changed my complete perception about society, where I grew up as a society, me being a person of color in their society.
Yeah.
It expands your mind, right?
It does. I
So-
tell people I've been out of the country more than in the country.
Yeah. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
The question I have, though, that was my anecdote, but the question that I have, though, is with the level of passion that you have, do you feel, and I know the answer, but do you feel as though you were found or you're met with people feeling like this is too much for them or that they want to compete with you to match your fire?
When you say, like, meet with people, like, as my clients or people just as, like...
In life.
Oh, wow. You know, it's funny because last year you know, when in praying, I ask God to surround me around certain people that don't look at me as a threat.
Well, we're getting there. Okay, please continue.
And that looks at me as we're out to help and have a same mission. And it took a very long time to get here.
Sure.
And go through some life adversity, suicide and cancer. It hones those people out real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will say now I'm in a space, and it's really crazy, like this year, that I'm that magnet of those people. The weird thing is, like, I would love to have so many girlfriends and stuff, but sometimes I guess I'm too alpha. Sometimes. So I have a lot of more homeboys that just, like, and sometimes I need it because they be like, Whitney, like, you're making this bigger than it has to. Like, they take the emotion and just straight, like, give it just like, it's like a steak. I don't want the meat. I want the meat. I don't want the potatoes. I don't want the vegetables. Like, they just give it to me straightforward. And that's kind of how I was raised.
Sure. Okay.
So I didn't realize that until later, that it's like, oh, some girls they like the fluff or whatever. I never grew up with the fluff.
Yeah. See, with women, if I may be able to speak on what I've observed, what I've seen is that a woman that is similar in passion, in me, as me, don't have many female friends.
Unfortunately.
A man that is as passionate as me in this driven est-j alpha thing, don't keep relationships well with people who don't understand this.
I get it.
So, because for us, I mean, I'm talking about being as a straight male binary, like that's what we would ultimately want, was trying to find somebody to complement that.
Yeah.
We don't need you to match it. I mean, you just got to know what you like.
Right.
I'm not going to speak on behalf of what everyone likes.
Right.
But what I do realize is that if you don't have a direction and or a concern and passion for the direction that you're going, we're not the same tribe. And
100%.
And so it's going to be hard for you to understand what I
The
would
direction
need.
that I'm trying to go.
What I would need, the direction I'm trying to go. Sometimes support isn't, oh, I just want to be there. And that's cool. You could. But that also could be a distraction.
Yes.
Because, you just got to know.
I literally have, like, one girlfriend. She's not an entrepreneur. And she listens to entrepreneur podcasts. And I was like, why? She said, because I want to understand how to show up for you.
Okay.
I said, girl, and that's her name's Christine, but that's my girl.
Sure.
That we can have it to where even though she's not in the same exact thing as me, she has my back as far as understanding my perspective of what I go through.
Trying to understand you.
Yeah.
Trying to understand you. Instead of fussing to make you acquiesce to their understanding of what you should be.
Everybody keeps trying to change somebody. Stop trying to change people. Like,
Let it be.
accept them for who they are and keep it moving.
That's it. You'll live a lot longer when you stop casting your expectations onto other people.
I've literally had to have that perspective change.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to do me.
Yes.
I'm going to do what I said I was going to do.
Yes.
Whether you do or not, that's your business.
I told people, I was like, I'm going to start and I'm going to finish as far as like with the execution of Whitney Rae Hill in 3 months. People laughed at me. People were like, what the heck? You're not going to do that. I had a limited, on one hand, how many people that was in my circle as far as with it, the process. And guess what? I executed it. And if they did not get on board, it's not that I'm not going to talk to you. I would tell people, I'll talk to you after Christmas. I'll talk to you after Christmas.
So I got something to do.
And they're like, why? Why are you? Because when I have this mindset of where I'm trying to go, no one, doesn't matter if you my husband, my mama, my daddy, whatever, I have a plan and I'm going to execute it.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not going to lie, when I meet other people like you that is like me, I'm like, oh, I'm not alone.
No,
like,
you're not
there's
alone.
more of us. And let's just say this, I feel normal.
Yeah.
Because ever since I was little, I was always the different. She's different. She's this. She likes to, like, Yeah, I can be girly, but if you be like, hey, we're going to play basketball, like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, just versatile in everything.
Sure. The journey from childhood to here, in terms of what it is that I really wanted to become and what I wanted to contribute, it came with a lot. It came with the, like, why are you always saying that? Why are you always saying these silly things? Or why do you talk like that? Why do you do this? Why do you do that?
Right.
All right, cool. So here's the deal. I've grown to be me.
Yes.
And I'd appreciate it if you appreciated that, but it's not necessary.
But when did that happen for you? Like, when did you start communicating that? Because people don't do that.
30s.
Me too.
Yeah, in my 30s. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, it was it wasn't gonna happen in my 20s because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was. I was working on I guess establishing the journey.
Age in your 30s or
Oh, I can remember a conversation I had that I can't tell you on microphone. But I can remember that conversation. And I was 35 because it was right after my birthday. And I was coming out of the thing. I was coming out of the funk. 2015 was a ridiculously horrible year. So I was coming out of that. Right. And as good as it, well, let me take that back. It was not ridiculously horrible. That's a bad way to say it. As good as that was, as many opportunities as that brought me, I still had to deal with the dark. So in coming out of that, January, I ran a marathon on my birthday. And then after that, because of that push, it recharged me. It kind of rekindled something. Right. And then I felt like, you know what? We ain't doing this no more. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like this thing. Yeah. And then trying to connect with people that were from, let's say, 2015 on previous, and they're coming back into the life.
How was that?
It's fine because I tell them straight up, I'm not the same anymore. I was like, I'm just not. And I don't, this is not some hashtag. This is not new me, new year.
No, it really was a new year.
New phone, who this?
I try to tell people, if you banking on who I was in high school or who I even was
lost
probably
bet.
Yesterday, I'm not that person anymore.
It's a lost bet. And I'm curious as to why you still are the same. like we're not supposed to be the same.
Yes.
We're
supposed to be ever growing, right?
My standard is every day I want to do something or learn something new.
Me too. Right? I'm doing a puzzle this week.
I saw that you had posted what you were going to do. That's your challenge. Week. How many pieces is that puzzle?
1,000.
Good Lord. So, but okay.
I never did something like that.
And that's the point. You don't know what this is going to do for you until you do it.
Exactly.
Until you do it. Now after that, would you do another one? Maybe not. Who knows?
But at least I challenged myself.
But at least you challenged yourself and committed yourself to the thing. And
I kept my mind moving.
That's the discipline. The discipline isn't, oh, I can't work out every day like you. First of all, I don't work out every day. Right. But the fact of the matter is that it's not the working out. It's the knowing that something must be done.
Right.
And the lack of hesitation to do it.
Right.
That's the discipline.
Literally, after going through cancer, like, it was kind of funny because a lot of people were like, oh, you look all in shape. I'm not going to lie. I was lying, Hassan. I was like, yeah, I be working out. I was not working out, okay? Because I was just being lazy.
Okay.
But I lost a lot of weight.
Sure.
And I stayed toned or whatever because I love vegetables and fruits.
Okay.
But
I mean, that does it, yes.
It's after chemo. It's just like the thing. But what I realized is I was like, if I'm going to work out, I have to do something fun. Mm-hmm. And so people were making fun of me. Now, you probably wouldn't because you're with the athlete, but I said I'm gonna try water aerobics. Okay. And I'm gonna try water yoga. One, I thought I was an avatar, so
Okay. So water was your thing.
I'm
not air.
What?
Not No Last Airbender.
Actually, I can do all of them, but that's a whole nother conversation.
I got you. We can save that. It's okay.
But what I realized is, even though people put a label as far as water aerobics are for older people and stuff like that, I try something new, and I love it. Yeah. It doesn't I go 3 times a week, and it doesn't feel like working out, and it's something out of the norm of what people would more so do, but it makes me so happy. You
got to do what makes you happy.
Yes.
Ultimately, that's it. But trying is the important portion of that because you can't just, we are not meant to just exist. That's not an alpha statement. That's a general statement. You can find that in any book that you want to read that's self-motivating, including the Bible. We are not meant to be here just to be here.
Yes.
At some level, you're going to leave an impact, even if that is to create another human being and then let that be your monument. and that's okay.
Right.
But just don't be stagnant.
Yes.
We can close with that.
Awesome.
Wow. This was a pleasure talking to you. This was more refreshing than I thought it was going to be, because I told you, it was like, you can look over your notes, but we're just going to flow anyway. And we still covered that.
Yeah,
But
we did.
But ideally, to have you here, I will tell you thank you to your face, to have you here, to come to the studio, see what I actually do.
Yeah.
This was important, I believe, in terms of the establishment of a good connectivity. So
100%.
thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. I loved it.
Whitney Rae Hill, WhitneyRaeHill.com. Find her on Instagram as well at Whitney Rae Hill. It's a brand. It's a movement. It was fantastic. So actually, and soon, Dr. Whitney Rae Hill.
Yes.
Right? Amazing. Thank you so much for coming. Again, you can find me on Google, all streaming platforms. Just check for Qualified or QLAFD, trademarked, as well as on YouTube.